Hello and welcome to Zero Cool Gaming and today's game review. Today we're going to be talking about Knights of the Old Republic. And I'm also going to talk about some changes I'd like to make to my videos, I guess. We'll start with that. I like video games. It's my favorite form of entertainment. And I don't truly feel that I'm doing up to this point. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've just been doing it to get used to talking into a mic and get in the habit of doing this every day. But I feel like I should be doing more for my game reviews. That's a way of putting this. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to go ahead and do like a game review at the beginning. Then I'm going to do some type of discussion about the game about midway through my gameplay. And then I'll do a final discussion, I guess, if I feel that there needs to be one. I don't know. I'm gonna start doing more for my video game reviews. That's basically where I'm going with this. Yeah, I may be talking about the same game 2-3 times before I move on to the next game. But I kind of feel like it's necessary. Especially with how chaotic my thoughts are and how I put things together. So, a little bit of a change, but not much. Basically, it just means that there's going to be at least one more video on each game that I cover, and possibly two. Knights of the Old Republic is an interesting game because there are a lot of games like it. I know people will try to argue that, but to me, I mean, obviously the second one's just like the first one. You got Jade Empire, which is like this. You've got Neverwinter Nights, which is like this. You've got Neverwinter Nights 2, sorry. I've never played the original Neverwinter Nights. I have it, but I've never played the original. So basically there are a lot of games that are very similar in game style and play as Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. It just seemed to be the end thing during that time frame. And there's nothing, wrong with that, I guess. I mean, we got a lot of games that are similar to one another, but different in their own way. This particular game, now, what I do, I have retro systems, which means I have a Windows XP system, which is designed for this game in that respect, or this game was made during that era, that time frame. So I'm kind of lucky in the respect that I can just load these things onto my computer, and just run them. The only reason that I even have older systems like that is because when my Windows XP system went down, it was a 939 system that I was using for Windows XP. And I used it for 12 years, literally. When it finally went out, and I say went out, I believe it was the hard drives that went out on me. And finding new hard drives for it at that time was already starting to become a serious pain. So I built a new system. But what I did at this basically the same time, and I spent a couple years doing it. The first things that I did was I went out and I bought another 939 motherboard. And later on I bought a video card and a processor and so on and so forth. Hard drives, you name it. I did the same thing with Windows 98. Didn't do as good of a job, obviously, because my Windows 98 computer is down because the hard drive went out in it 3 months after I built it and got it running. And no, I haven't gotten any hard drives to replace that. I will eventually, and I will try to get that back up and running. Because it works for both Windows 95 and 98, that particular build. And I don't mind switching back and forth between those two OSs. Just format the system, put 95 on it, format the system, put 98 on it. I don't mind doing that. But Knights of the Old Republic, while I do remember enjoying this game when I played it the first time, I never played it again. I played it once and that was it. The same thing with Knights of the Old Republic too. JDM, I mean all these type of games. Neverwinter Nights 2, I played them at the time, but I never played them again. They didn't interest me enough to do that. It's not that they were bad games. They weren't. They just weren't the type of games that you would pick up immediately after and play it again. I mean, some people, maybe they were. I mean, for me personally, no, they were not that type of game. I've had games I've done that with, absolutely. Several of them, in fact. In fact, I just covered one that I'd done that with. Mage Knight Apocalypse. As soon as I finished it, I started it back up and played through it again. And it had nothing to do with me really liking or disliking the game. It had more to do with me wanting to level up my stats on my character so that I could wear a set of armor that I had found throughout my gameplay. Never did get to wear that armor, but hey, I at least tried. Sort of. I played through the game like 3 times in a row. Craziness. But these games, I mean, it's been, however long since the creation of these games, since I played them. I'm not really good with remembering dates. And my eyes are so bad I can't read this tiny writing anymore. So whenever it came out, I'm sure it was the early 2000s. That's just kind of the way that stuff goes. 2000, yeah, it's the early 2000s. So what do I think of it? Well, I think if you've never played the game, you have 100 hours of enjoyment learning it. Because you will die repeatedly. In fact, I've died 3 times in this game already. I've been playing the same 30 minutes for an hour and a half. Because I died twice. And I know I'm going to die again. Why? Because it's me. And that's just kind of the way I do things. No, I mean, the game's got a serious... it's not a difficulty spike. It's all based on dice rolls, I think. Internal dice rolls, you don't see it. But if you get bad rolls with, bad defense rolls and the AI gets good attack rolls, that they can wipe you out really, really quick. And they have. 3 times over. So, and I don't think it's necessarily my fault. I think some of it is, I think I need to go do some other things and try to level up my character a little more before I try to push on into the game. But I really don't know. I mean, it kind of feels like maybe because I have played it before, I have more knowledge than I should have. So I was able to skip through some of the game, kind of. Or skip sections that I shouldn't be because I need more points to level up. I truly don't know. But that's truly what my goal today is. Excuse me. Is to go back through the entire game that I've played so far, the first section of it, and see if there's any, points or experience points that I'm leaving on the table in the first areas that I can get because I bypassed it or I missed it or whatever I did. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, is that I'm going to go back and try to gain some experience points, maybe gain a level, and then go back down and see if I can get through these sections without dying instantly. Not that that bothers me. I mean, I could push through it regardless without going back. And I know I would be fine. That's just kind of the way this game is. And in truth, all the games like this are like that. They try to... By the time you get it like halfway through the game, it truly doesn't matter how much you've messed up or not messed up. The games level themselves out. And I don't know how exactly they do that internally with the programming, but I know that that's what they do. Anyway, that's my rant for the day, and I hope you enjoy the rest of yours.